You can see we're all filmmakers that totally desperate to get the shot before the clock runs out.
Martin Scorsese is widely regarded as one of cinema's greatest visionaries, a filmmaker whose work has shaped our understanding of storytelling, power, and the human condition. While some have thrived under his demanding methods, others, well, they've walked away with bruised egos, fiery disagreements, and sometimes a mutual vow to never work together again. But the truth is, not every actor fits inside Scorsese's cinematic frame. Today we're exploring the raw conflicts and shocking tensions between Scorsese and the performers who just couldn't meet the demands of his exacting vision. James Caan. Early in his career, Martin Scorsese had big plans for a project called Italian American, a semi-autobiographical film about life in New York's Little Italy. To anchor the story, Scorsese turned to James Caan, fresh off his star-making volcanic turn as Sonny Corleone in The Godfather. But what started as a promising collaboration quickly morphed into a cautionary tale of too much creative energy in one room. According to multiple production insiders, tensions brewed almost immediately during pre-production. Scorsese was laser-focused on building characters rooted in his personal memories, while Caan, an actor known for throwing himself headfirst into each role, pushed to reshape the film's direction. One explosive rehearsal reportedly ended with Scorsese pacing the room shouting, "This isn't a sunny story, Jimmy." Years later, in an interview with Film Comment, Scorsese reflected on the scrap project, saying, "Jimmy was brilliant, but he read the character all wrong. It became impossible to move forward with him." Caan, on the other hand, laughed it off when asked decades later, saying, "He was intense, man. I gave him my best, but he wanted something no actor could give him, not even De Niro." The project never came to fruition, and from that point forward, the two avoided each other entirely. This rare collision between two creative giants still raises questions about what masterpieces might have emerged from their collaboration. Mark Wahlberg. For a director well known for his meticulous approach to storytelling, collaboration with a star as forceful and independent as Mark Wahlberg was destined to spark conflict. Despite glowing reviews for his role in The Departed, the partnership behind the scenes fell far short of paradise. Scorsese sought to portray Wahlberg's Sergeant Denham as a complex figure, shaped by his environment but brimming with hidden layers of vulnerability, requirements that did not mesh well with Wahlberg's brash, Boston-centered approach. On set, crew members allegedly witnessed several instances of creative clashes over tone. At one point, Wahlberg plowed through one of Denham's tirades in a single take, only for Scorsese to stop the cameras, muttering, "Again, but this time, breathe." Said one production assistant, "Mark worked from instinct, but Martin wanted precision. They were speaking completely different languages." In a twist of irony, Wahlberg's performance landed The Departed his only individual acting nomination at the Oscars, a recognition that reportedly left the director lukewarm. Subsequent casting calls for projects like Shutter Island notably excluded Wahlberg from consideration. As Scorsese later remarked to film students, "The perfect performance isn't always Oscar caliber. I care about the character, not the trophy." Julia Roberts. Though Scorsese's works largely revolve around male protagonists, his effort to bring Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence to life in 1993 saw him pursuing one of Hollywood's biggest female stars at the time, Julia Roberts. From the outset, casting Roberts as Countess Ellen Olenska seemed a bold choice, and an ultimately asking too much decision. Despite discussing the role extensively in pre-production, cracks began to form when Roberts pushed back against Scorsese's insistence on historically accurate costuming. Roberts's discomfort during corset fittings reportedly became a metaphor for their wider creative disagreement. "He wanted the physical restriction to inform my performance," Roberts said years later. "I'm all for method acting, but I need to breathe." Ultimately, Roberts exited the project after a particularly tense creative argument about the character's rigidity. Michelle Pfeiffer eventually replaced her, and when asked about the incident years later, Scorsese said, "Julia has brilliance, but I needed someone who belonged in Wharton's New York, not someone who seemed like they'd walked off a modern Hollywood set." Ryan O'Neal. Before Robert De Niro secured his career-defining role as Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull, another actor briefly flirted with the part. Ryan O'Neal, fresh off critical acclaim for Barry Lyndon and Paper Moon, met with Scorsese for what would become a disastrous audition. An insider on the production recalled Scorsese growing visibly agitated as O'Neal suggested softening certain character traits to make LaMotta more sympathetic. "Martin didn't say a word during the read," said the witness, "but you could tell O'Neal wasn't giving him what he wanted. When he left, Marty shook his head in silence before declaring, 'It's De Niro or no one.'" Though O'Neal brushed off the meeting as a difference in artistic intention, industry whispers turned the failed audition into one of Hollywood's most fascinating what-ifs. Would audiences have embraced a tamer, less primal take on LaMotta? The thought alone makes the case for Scorsese's gut instincts. Winona Ryder, the struggle behind perfection. Having cast Winona Ryder as May Welland in The Age of Innocence, Scorsese expected an understated yet impactful performance, a presence that simmered just below the surface. What he reportedly underestimated, however, was the challenge of steering Ryder's natural charisma into more restrained waters. Filming became grueling during highly delicate scenes, with Ryder reportedly struggling to embody May's calculated innocence. One crew member remembered Scorsese taking her aside for whispered, hour-long instructions. Winona came back to set red-eyed almost every day, they said. She cared so much. It was painful to watch her fall short of what Martin wanted. Ryder earned an Oscar nomination for her role, but the reception did little to mend the fractured collaboration. Scorsese, often evasive when asked why they never reunited professionally, simply stated, "Some performances come at too high a cost, on both ends." Chris Hemsworth. Though Chris Hemsworth and Martin Scorsese have never worked together, the distance between them hasn't made their tension any quieter. Following Scorsese's now infamous critique of superhero films as theme park rides, Hemsworth entered the conversation as a vocal defender of the genre, questioning the filmmaker's dismissal of its artistic merit. In an interview, Hemsworth remarked, "I think these movies inspire creativity and imagination. You can't tell me that audiences leave the theater without feeling something." But it wasn't just a war of words in the press. Hemsworth's comments were seen by some as a direct challenge to Scorsese's stance, which argued that big-budget blockbusters lack the emotional depth and daring risks of traditional cinema. Despite this, Scorsese seemingly doubled down during subsequent interviews, expressing disappointment at the overwhelming dominance of Marvel-style movies in the industry. While Hemsworth refrained from escalating the feud, it's clear the actor stands aligned with a newer generation of stars who view the superhero genre as vital. Robert Downey Jr. Though Scorsese never directly targeted Robert Downey Jr., in his critique of superhero films, it's impossible to ignore the connection. Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Iron Man undeniably defined the modern Marvel formula. Character-driven spectacle fueled by action, charisma, and humor. It's the exact style of blockbuster Scorsese referred to as not the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional psychological experiences. Cut to Downey Jr. responding in a late-night interview. "He's Martin Scorsese. He's one of our greatest directors. I love the guy," Downey said before adding a pointed observation, "but it feels like he's saying we don't matter." Downey, known for his wit and sharp comebacks, refrained from any outright hostility, but the message was clear. Scorsese and the actors of this genre fundamentally disagreed on what makes cinema meaningful. Though Downey Jr. has since retired from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the shadow of Scorsese's critique continues to spark debate about how his performances and Marvel's dominance will be remembered. Scarlett Johansson. As one of the most respected stars in the Marvel roster, Scarlett Johansson had plenty to say about Scorsese's stance on superhero films. Though her portrayal of Black Widow has been widely praised for injecting vulnerability and depth into a blockbuster archetype, it didn't stop Scorsese's comments from raising the ire of Marvel loyalists, Johansson included. "There's room for all kinds of cinema," she asserted during an interview. Johansson's firm yet diplomatic response mirrored her professional on-screen poise. But insiders noted that the debate wasn't merely about Marvel, it was about dismissing her range as an actor. With films like Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit under her belt, Johansson pushed back against the idea that her success was entirely dependent on CGI-heavy franchises. Scorsese, for his part, has mostly avoided engaging with individual actors in this debate, but Johansson's position highlighted a growing frustration. Chris Evans. Chris, the definitive Captain America for millions of fans, was similarly thrust into the Marvel versus Martin debate. Known for his steadfast loyalty to his MCU colleagues, Evans didn't shy away from voicing disagreement with Scorsese's remarks. Evans revealed in a GQ profile, "Art is subjective. My job isn't to define cinema, it's to act. And at the end of the day, these films bring so much joy to so many people. Isn't that what matters?" While Evans kept his words professional, insiders noted a subtle message in his interviews. The suggestion that actors in the Marvel universe feel underappreciated and disrespected by auteur filmmakers who dismiss blockbusters en masse. Despite Evans's repeated successes outside of Marvel in films like Knives Out, the debate reminded audiences that even A-listers aren't immune to Hollywood's divisive definitions of real art. Tom Holland. Even as one of the youngest stars in this Marvel Scorsese saga, Tom Holland made it clear that he wasn't about to stay quiet. Holland addressed Scorsese's critiques head-on during a press junket, pointing out the significant emotional investment and real work that goes into modern blockbusters. You can ask Scorsese, would you want to make a Marvel movie? He'll probably say no, Holland quipped. But that doesn't mean they're not cinema. While Martin Scorsese's track record with actors remains unparalleled, his creative clashes remind us of the cost of cinematic greatness. For every harmonious partnership, there's a fiery reminder that genius often demands sacrifices, not just from actors, but from everyone involved. In Scorsese's world, art eclipses all else, leaving us to wonder, was it worth the price? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this.